Never in my wildest dreams did I ever imagine that Mick Jagger would hold my hand, stare into my eyes, and sing to me. Well, that came true on a steamy summer's night. It wasn't summer, it was fall. It was September 1981 at Sir Morgan's Cove in Worcester, Massachusetts. And that day for me started out like any other day. I was headed to school, listening to WAAF, which was our local rock station in Worcester. And I lived in Sturbridge at the time. And I'm driving along to go to school when I hear the announcer on the radio say that the Stones are going to be playing at a secret location that for free for people, okay? But in order to go, you had to be spotted or lucky enough to see a member of the band, which were strategically located throughout the city of Worcester and handing out free tickets. And I was, oh my goodness. And the only thing that you had to do is you had to show an ID to prove that you were old enough to be in a pub, and they would give you the tickets. So the freaky part was that just like a week ago, my wallet had been stolen. We had taken the kids, our son and friends, roller skating, and my purse got stolen, which included my wallet, which included my license. So I was like, oh my goodness, I got to try to get some of these tickets. I was on my way to school. I also had a doctor's appointment because I was pregnant. I was newly pregnant and I needed to go and get my first checkup, and I didn't have a license. So I drove to my husband at the time, his place of work, and I went in and said, look, give me your license. He's like, what are you talking about? I go, well, the Stones are going to be playing somewhere tonight and I have to prove my age. And since we're the same age, I could use your license since, you know, you're my husband. And I gave him this whole spiel and he ended up by handing me over his license. And then the other thing that you had to do is you had to have a WAAF bumper sticker on your car. Well, I didn't. So I drove right downtown to the radio station, got a bumper sticker. And in the streets, people were walking the streets of Worcester with bumpers. Like, I saw a woman and a man that were naked and they had bumper stickers all over their bodies, like trying to attract attention, trying to get tickets. And so I took the bumper sticker, put it on my car, and I didn't have any bumper stickers on my car. And I had an MGB and the bumper was rubber, and I put it right on the bumper. And I thought, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. So I went off to school and I'm thinking, I can't sit in school. I have to drive around. I have to find these tickets. I have to get these tickets. So I think I went to one class, and then at the time, you know, there were payphones, and I went to the payphone and I called my doctor because I thought, I've got to get out of going to this doctor's appointment because I've got to go out and drive around town and find these tickets. So I called my doctor, and the nurse answered, my obstetrician, and she said, look, Wendy, unless you're sick, you really need to come in because you've been having cramps and I don't want to take any chances. So you have got to come in. I'm not going to let you get out of it unless you're sick. I'm like, okay, I will be there. So I go out driving around. Then I go, my doctor was located right adjacent to the hospital in Worcester. And I go in and I get my checkup, and he said, you know, meet me in my office. So I go in there and sit in his office, you know, after you get all dressed up. And I'm sitting in there and I can hear like commotion on the street. So he comes in, he says, you got any questions? I'm like, no. I'm like trying to get out of the appointment as fast as possible. When he's sitting there trying to give me attention and time, I'm like dying to get out the door. So he's like, well, everything looks good, you know, be back whenever. So then I leave, I walk out, get in my car, I take a left out of Hahnemann Hospital, and right there is the keyboardist, Chuck, I believe that's his name. Anyways, the keyboardist handing out tickets. People were screaming and running in the street as I turned out, and I pulled the appointment I tried to cancel is the appointment that got me my tickets to the cockroaches and Blue Monday. So when I went up, I obviously had to prove my age. So I went up, I'm like, I'm really this age. This is my husband. We're 1 month apart. We're the same age. And we're both legal age to go to a club. And I convinced him, and he gave me 2 tickets. And on the tickets, it said Blue Monday and the cockroaches, and you could not, non-transferable. So you couldn't sell them. You had to show that license with those tickets because they didn't want people, making money off of them. So that was the way that it went. Well, I go home. I get home. My husband's at home with our then only son at the time. And they were downstairs, I think cleaning the basement or something. And I go downstairs and I say, throw the tickets on the air hockey table. I'm like, look, we're going to see the Stones tonight. He's like, yeah, right. Because he looked at the tickets and it said Blue Monday and the cockroaches and Blue Monday. And he's like, yeah, right. He didn't believe me. He thought I was pulling his leg. So he gets on the phone to the radio station and he's like, look, my wife just came home with tickets and this is what they say. And she said, the receptionist or whoever he talked to said, yep, you're going to the Stones. So we ended up by going. And, we had to quickly get a babysitter, which we called my husband's sister at the time and her husband to watch our son. And they lived in Worcester, so it worked out really well. We drove in, dropped him off, and headed down to Sir Morgan's Cove to see the Rolling Stones. Well, there was all this mystery around who the Blue Monday was. The cockroaches supposedly were the Stones, and Blue Monday was, just so happened, it was a band that was headed up by a classmate of, a former classmate of ours in high school. So imagine getting your call as a small local band. Hey, how'd you like to back up the Stones tonight? Yeah. So they were backing up the Stones. So friends of ours played first. And what they did, well, when you arrived, you had to stay on the other side of the street. And people were trying to find tickets, trying to see if they could buy tickets. It was a zoo because apparently someone had leaked the story that this was happening and the street was mobbed. And they made everybody stay on the opposite side of the street. And the Stones rolled up in like a Winnebago or some sort of a camper on wheels and pulled in, and everybody was going nuts. It was crazy. It was so crazy. Anyways, so we get in there and literally it's a pub we went to all the time, with our friends to hang out and listen to bands. And it was unbelievable that we were going to see the world famous Rolling Stones and only 300 other people. I mean, I think of the total of people who could be in there was 300. No cameras, no nothing. And that was it. We literally got in and we were about to witness history. And we felt so absolutely lucky. I remember one kid came up to me when we were standing on the other side of the street and he said, I will trade you my Porsche for those tickets. I said, listen, you cannot use these tickets. No one can use these tickets but the people that are attached to this, license. Supposedly, I don't even know if that's really how it worked, but that's what they told us anyways. So, yeah. So I'm calling this part 1. Part 2 is the next half of the story.